Is this the most important offseason in 49ers recent history? Let's talk about it.
Yo, it's time to grind. With Brian on the mic, content is one of a kind. Now, welcome to my show, the BS Report, where we let the truth flow. We're breaking down the stories, shining light on the games. No fake news here, just hot takes blowing flames. The BS Report, yeah, we're keeping it tight, bringing you the news, making it ignite. Tune in, turn it up, feel the heat rise. With Brian in the house, our takes won't be compromised. From the latest news to the hottest debates, in the BS Report, we're setting the stakes. So come along, join the ride, where Brian and his subscribers are full of Niner pride. Yo.
What's going on, everybody? How's everybody doing? I hope you guys are all enjoying this divisional round weekend, enjoying watching some football. Just got done watching the refs. I don't want to say bail the Chiefs out again, but they definitely had a hand in it. Anyhow, today I want to talk about a couple of things. You know, I'm sitting here thinking about the state of this team, the state of the 49ers, and I was sitting there thinking, is this Super Bowl window still open? Because, you know, they say as long as you have a franchise quarterback, your Super Bowl window should always be open, right? If you have an elite coach and an elite quarterback, your Super Bowl window should always be open. But then I start thinking about it and I look at, okay, but how many teams with an elite coach and an elite quarterback go 6-11? And so it just makes you wonder if we have both or either. You know, I think it's pretty clear by now where I stand on that. I don't think we have either. But I know that there's a lot of fans out there who believe that we do. Either we have one or the other or both. And so what I want to talk about is the Super Bowl window still open? And personally, I don't think it is. I don't think that you can have a Super Bowl window that's open and have a quarterback and a coach that are supposedly elite that just went 6-11. It doesn't happen. You know, I understand that injuries happen. I understand that players get old. But in my opinion, one of the things that makes an elite quarterback elite is being able to raise the play of the players around them and not have to rely on those players to pick him up. And when you look at a quarterback like Brock Purdy, he put up elite numbers last year. Had he went out and threw 2 touchdowns and 2 picks against the Ravens instead of no touchdowns and 4 picks, and they won the game or even very narrowly lost the game, I mean, last-minute field goal type loss, I honestly think that there's a strong chance that Brock Purdy wins the MVP last year or comes in second. But he didn't. He fell apart. And it's been a roller coaster with him ever since that game. To me, that game took something from him, and he hasn't been able to regain it. But even prior to that game, I'm not so sure that Brock Purdy was an elite quarterback. I think, if anything, maybe it showed teams how to play him differently, and because of that, it's opened all of our eyes, because now there was a blueprint, so to speak, on Brock and what to do against him, and Kyle specifically as well, how to beat that Kyle Shanahan offense with Brock Purdy as a quarterback. Now, that doesn't mean that I don't believe that Brock can have success. You know, I put out a short video. It was a cut up of a longer video the other day. And in the comments, I had one specific person just totally misunderstand what I was saying in that video. You know, in that video, I was not saying that if Brock Purdy takes less money, his career is going to be longer. And I specifically said in that video that I was not saying that Brock taking a top of the market money deal was going to end his career. What I was saying is that if Brock took a top of the market money deal and he had to be the one to carry the team, much like he was needing to do this year, then it would expose the deficiencies that he has. I am not saying that Brock is not a good quarterback. I am not saying that Brock doesn't deserve to be paid whatever he can get paid. I'm not saying that at all. To each their own. If you can get however much you can get, then go do that. But speaking from the standpoint of being self-aware and being accepting of your own limitations and your own abilities, if Brock were to actually, look in the mirror and be able to evaluate himself on a real level, he would know that he is not the type of quarterback that is going to throw a team on his back and carry a team the way that a Patrick Mahomes or Lamar Jackson or a Josh Allen can with depleted offensive talent around him. When you look at those guys, they take the players that they have and elevate them to be better than they are. When has Brock done that? Because you look at the superstar players go down this year, like CMC, like Ayuk, you see Debo regress. And I don't see where he's turned that franchise or that offense into an unstoppable force. When the game is on the line and the Chiefs need a play, now I joked in the beginning of this video about the refs helping out the Chiefs and this and that, but in reality, when the game is on the line and the Chiefs need a play, deep in your gut that Patrick Mahomes is going to make that play. Josh Allen is playing on a team that has a very scary offense with really 1.5 scary players on the offense. So, Brock Purdy is not at the level where he's going to put a team on his back like that and carry. And when he's asked to do it, when he's asked to put that pressure on himself, he falls short. So with him taking a $60 to $65 million a year contract, where they're not able to build up the team around him like he had in 2023, then all those deficiencies are going to be exposed. That doesn't mean that his career is over. That doesn't mean that he's no longer a serviceable quarterback. That just means that he no longer will be viewed as a top tier franchise type quarterback. He will no longer be in the conversation of elite quarterback. He will no longer be on shows on Fox Sports and ESPN where they're debating whether Brock Purdy should be considered an elite quarterback. The words Brock Purdy will never probably come out of a guy like Nick Wright or Colin Cowherd's mouth again, is what I'm trying to say. Will he still be in the NFL? Yes. But will he be considered top of the league? No. He will be viewed as somebody can bring him in that has, quite a bit of talent. Maybe he's getting ready to draft a quarterback and needs someone to be a bridge or a very good backup. That's where his career arc will go if he takes, in my opinion, if he takes a $60 million a year plus contract and he has to put the team on his back and he has to be the 49ers version of Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, or Patrick Mahomes, then that's what he's going to be exposed as. And I hear the argument all the time of people saying that, Brock Purdy can throw the ball 40 yards down the field. He doesn't lack arm strength. I don't know if people really understand what arm strength is. Being able to chuck a duck down the field 40 yards a lot of guys can do that. I would venture to guess that probably 70 to 75% of the guys in the NFL could rear back and launch a ball 40 yards down the field. Arm strength is being able to hit, a 15, 20 yard out on the opposite side of the field on a line. Arm strength is being able to zip the ball on a rope down the middle of the field in between two defenders 20 yards away. That's arm strength. Being able to throw off your back foot when you're under pressure and be able to zip a ball in somewhere. That's arm strength. Distance isn't arm strength. So when I say that Brock Purdy doesn't have the required tools to be an elite franchise quarterback, that's what I mean. It has nothing to do with how far he can throw the ball. And by the way, it is evident when he throws it far, because those balls take forever to get there. Yeah, they go 40 yards, but by the time they get there, the whole defense is there too. How many balls did Brock Purdy throw in stride to receivers 20, 30, 40 yards down the field this season? Did he even throw one in stride? Because he doesn't have the arm strength. It's not about distance. And at the end of the day, when the game is on the line, you're always going to need a franchise quarterback to win you that game. You're always going to come a point in every season and every playoffs when you come across those couple of games, especially in the playoffs, where you're down by a touchdown. There's 58 seconds left in the game and you got no timeouts, and you need your quarterback without the threat of a run to take your team and march them down the field and get them in the end zone. And I have exactly 0% faith that Brock Purdy can do that at this point. Now, that's not all on him. I have 0% faith that Kyle Shanahan is capable of doing that either. But I don't have any reason to believe that Brock Purdy is capable of doing that. I don't think that he has the physical tools necessary to complete a drive like that, where he's not going to get time to sit back with the defense playing a soft zone, where he's just going to be able to pick them apart. He's going to be under pressure. He's going to be required to make throws that he's not capable of making. And so for that reason, I believe when it's on him, when it's on his arm, because he doesn't have elite talent around him that is going to beat defense. So he's going to have to beat the defense with his arm. At $60 to $65 million, it's going to be on him. And it's going to expose those deficiencies. It's going to bring them to the forefront. Now, if he were to take less money, if he were to take, the $40 to $45 million a year, where they can still build up a team around him, where he can have an elite wide receiver room, maybe an elite running back, some combination of elite talent around him, where his receivers can win their matchups. Maybe, and I know this is a long shot, but maybe Kyle Shanahan can finally get his head out of his ass and put together an offensive line that can protect him a little bit and give him a little bit more time. They can spend a little bit more money on the offensive line because they have 20 to 25 million extra dollars that Brock didn't get. So with that, I'm saying they'd be able to keep a little bit stronger of a defense. Now, listen, even at $45 million, they're not going to be able to have the 2023 Niners. They just can't, because he was making $1 million. But it can definitely be better than it would be at 60 or 65, even 55. To where he can still look, where the debates will still be going on, is Brock a franchise quarterback? Is Brock a top 5 quarterback in the league? Is Brock elite? Now, in my opinion, I don't think I'm ever going to get there. I mean, Brock would have to come out next season and just light the league on fire. He would have to do things that he has not done his whole career to make me believe that. But the conversations will be had. And because of that, and I do think the Niners will have some form of success doing it that way. You know, I don't believe that they will win a Super Bowl, but that has less to do with Brock than it does with Kyle in reality. With a talented team around Brock Purdy, similar to last year, I do believe that he is capable of winning a Super Bowl and leading this team to a Super Bowl. I don't believe the combination of Brock and Kyle are. That's my opinion. But I do think Brock has it in him to do it with that elite team around him. But the problem is, I don't believe that, like a lot of people are saying in the comments, Brock took such little money or got such little money as a on his rookie deal that he's not going to want to take a $40 to $45 million a year deal. And I believe that. I don't believe he will. I believe he should for the sake of his own success. And also the 49ers. See, that's the other thing that people got to understand is I'm a fan of the 49ers first. So all these people in the comments that get mad and hurt and upset and just totally outraged at the fact that I wish Brock Purdy would take less money. Oh, well, get mad. My thing, I'm a fan of the 49ers first. And there was one comment that said that this is a business, and you're exactly right. This is a business. So in the best interest of the business, which happens to be the 49ers. Now, yeah, Brock Purdy is a business in and of himself. And in the best interest of himself, he should probably try to get as much money as he can, if that's what his ultimate goal is. But the ultimate goal of the team should be to win. And if the ultimate goal of Brock Purdy is to win, then he should take less. So you can say, I wouldn't take less in my job. Well, okay. It's apples and oranges, though. It's completely different. It's completely different. So however much money I make in my own personal job doesn't dictate the success of our company from a performance basis. Now, the amount of money that I make might affect the company on the financial end of things, but paying me more or less isn't going to affect the product that we put out. If I made double or triple of what I make now, the customer satisfaction would be the same. Whereas in the NFL with Brock Purdy, the more money he makes, the less of a team there is around him. That directly affects the performance and the product that the San Francisco 49ers put on the field, which in turn affects their chances of making the playoffs and being able to go far into the playoffs, which also affects the amount of money that they make as a team. So you can't compare the two. It's completely different. Also, my company doesn't have a salary cap. Now, they may have a budget, but it's up to them whether or not they want to go above and beyond that budget or not. They are not ordered by anybody else to keep their payroll within a certain amount. And paying me X amount of dollars doesn't affect them being able to hire talent in other places. It's completely different. So that argument doesn't make any sense to me. And so, yeah, if I got offered more money to do my job, would I take? Of course I would. And I'm not saying that I 100% expect and think Brock Purdy should take less money. It all depends on what his goals are. Is his goal to make as much money as possible? Then fine, take it. But you know what? And that's the thing, like I've said about Brock, is he has ultimate confidence in himself. But if he was real, if he really looked at it, then he would take less. Because I think in the long run, it would make him more. But if his idea is that I'm going to take as much as I can now, then go for it. He's got to view himself as a business, and I get that. But on the other side of the table, the 49ers should be doing the same thing too. You know, in the comments that I see that the NFL does pay players for past performance. That is the worst way to run an NFL team. That is not how you do it. You do not pay players for past performance. You pay them for future results. When you want to know what happens when you pay a player for past performance, Deebo Samuel happens. That's what happens when you pay a player for past performance. You get the last 3 years of Deebo. You don't do that. You pay a player off of what you project them to be going forward. So the argument that Brock Purdy already took less, so he should be paid more now? No. The only way you could do that is if you went to Brock this year and say, listen, we're not ready to max you out. We're not ready to pay you top of the market money because we just don't believe that you've shown enough to be at that point yet. But we understand that you've done a lot for us and you've way outplayed your contract for the last 2.5 seasons. So because of that, we're willing to give you a 1-year, $25 to $30 million contract fully guaranteed. You are basically paying him for past performance. And you're doing it because he still has this year on his left on the original contract. You tear that up, you give him a new deal for this year, 25 to 30 million, fully guaranteed to make up for those years. And you make him go prove that he's worth that 60 to 65 million dollars. And when he doesn't, you use that $30 million as a starting point in negotiations for his next contract, knowing that it's probably going to go up closer to 40. But that's the only way that you pay him for past performance. You don't give him a 5-year, $250 to $325 million contract because for 2.5 years he had half of it okay and half of it not very good. In what world does that make any sense? So if the people making that comment are actual business owners and that's the way they run their business, good luck. Because that's not smart. And to say that every company pays for past performance and not future results, that's also not very smart. It's really not. Yeah, I think in the real world, you know, out here with all of us regular people that have regular jobs, there is an aspect of our raise that goes to what we've done. But what we're going to do also goes into consideration, and it should go into consideration a lot more. So, you know, as somebody who would be looking into hire somebody or promote somebody or give somebody a raise, that decision would never be solely on what they did. It would be a combination of what they did and what I believe they're going to do. Because you can take that, what they did, as somewhat of a barometer into what they're going to do. So let's say that the 49ers did do it that way. They did pay him for past performance. So all you Brock Purdy superfans out there, answer this question for me. Which past performance are you paying him for? The first 20 games or the last 20 games? That's what I want to know. Because they're two different samples there. So if you want to pay him for past performance, and let's say the first 20 games that he started out his career were elite franchise level play, so you want to pay him, $60 million for that. But the last 20 games of his career are average starter at best numbers, which is, let's say, $20 million a year. So where does that take you? Where does that put you? The way I look at it is it puts you right in the middle, which puts you at $40 million. The first part was elite, $60 million a year. The last part was a $20 million a year contract. You meet in the middle at 40. So if you want to pay for past performance, that's what you're getting. It's just funny how that happens to project out to what he probably actually is going forward. A $40 million a year quarterback. Now, personally, I wouldn't even want to pay him that unless you were going to continue to look for your franchise quarterback. Keep rolling with Brock. He's good enough at $40 million. But keep finding that guy, keep looking for that guy that you can pay $60 million to. So either way you want to spin it, whether you want to spin it as you pay for future projections, which I project him out to be basically a Baker level quarterback, and honestly, probably not even quite as good as Baker. Baker's got way more arm talent than Brock ever dreamed of having. Brock's probably a little smarter, though. At least he was. I'm still going to lean on the side of Brock probably being a little smarter. So whether you want to go to that side and project him out to that, or you want to go off of his past performance and go off of the last 40 games of his career where it's been half and half good and half really not, and you split a great quarterback to a mid quarterback and you meet that right in the middle, that's at $40 million as well. So either way, he's a $40 million a year quarterback. So I kind of got way off topic there. Back to the 49ers Super Bowl window being open or closed. I believe at this specific moment that window is closed. Because this team is too reliant on star players that are old and past their prime. And Kyle relies too much on a couple specific players that are probably never going to get back to where they were. But I do believe that it is possible to reopen the Super Bowl window. And I kind of just went into it a little bit. I believe that a few things need to happen to reopen that window. One is Brock has to take a maximum $45 million a year deal. That has to be number one. The second thing that needs to happen is the 49ers need to move on from players like Deebo Samuel, because Kyle gets too fixated on specifically him and McCaffrey, but he really gets fixated on Deebo, and because they're friends. So guys like Deebo, guys like Kyle Juszczyk, guys like Colton McKivitz and Jake Brendel, those guys need to be replaced. Kyle needs to put a focus on the younger guys on this team. Guys like Ricky Pearsall and Jacob Cowing. Whatever running back he drafts this year, Garendo, if he's able to come back healthy next year, if they bring back Mason, it can't be solely reliant on Christian McCaffrey. George Kittle needs to be featured more in the offense. But most importantly, they have to fix the trenches of this team. They have to rebuild this offensive line, and they have to rebuild the defensive line. If they can rebuild the trenches, get a little bit more protection for Brock, and get a little bit more pressure on the opposing quarterback, and spread the love around on offense more than they have, I do believe that the Super Bowl window can open up again. But the biggest thing that needs to happen for that to happen would require Kyle to change his whole mindset. It would require Kyle to stop being so damn stubborn. It require him to be self-aware, to look in the mirror and see his faults and correct them. It would require him to be able to manage the game like a head coach. It would require him to pull his head out of his play sheet or his tablet or his Microsoft Surface or whatever the hell he's looking at and actually coach this team. It would require him to admit from time to time that he's wrong. It would require him to take suggestions from other people on the team. For him to let go of the reins a little bit. And not be so petty and spiteful. And that's a huge adjustment. But for Kyle it is. But in reality, it's not. The crazy thing about it is this team still does have enough talent. And Kyle himself has enough talent for this team Super Bowl window to open right back up. All they have to do is focus their priorities to the trenches of this team and fix it, which can be done. It can be done in a couple of drafts and a couple of good free agencies. You know, there's some guards that are becoming free agents now that are a little bit older that are way better than Aaron Banks. That would help immensely on that offensive line. Especially because at some point you have to start projecting Trent Williams to start slowing down a little bit. So if you can get him even just a little bit more talent on that side of the line, Jake Brendel has got to go. Go sign a center or draft one high. Get somebody in there that is actually serviceable at that position. And then you replace McKivitz. Either through the draft or free agency. Maybe even you give Jalen Moore, you re-sign because he is a free agent. Maybe you re-sign Jalen Moore and give him a shot there. Because he didn't do horribly filling in for Trent. Now, I know it's different from the left to the right side, but give him a shot. I have to believe that day one out of the gates, he'll be better than McKivitz. And I have to believe that almost anybody you can sign is going to be better than Brendel. So if you can even slowly start to rebuild this offensive line with a couple of veterans, a couple of young guys, and maybe moving Jalen Moore over, you got to make it a priority. And then on the defensive side of the ball, here's the thing with the defense we run, the wide nine defense. It requires a lot of special talent, speed, young talent all over the field for that defense to be effective. And this team just doesn't have that anymore. I'm not saying this team is depleted of talent, but it's aging. It's slower. It's not as good as it once was. And it's nowhere near as deep as it once was. Here's the thing. Before we started having to pay everybody, this team was a lot deeper. So we could come at teams in waves. And when you have a lot of speed and a lot of depth, this defense is very dangerous. But in its current state, it's not. It's a liability. So with having to pay Purdy, even at 40 or 45 million, the defensive side of the ball is going to take a hit. It just is. There's no way around that. So the philosophy has to change, which is one of the reasons I'm not completely 100% sold on Saleh. Yeah, Saleh's a great coordinator. He's every bit worth being the highest paid coordinator in the NFL on a team that has a defense capable of running his scheme. I'm not sure this team is that anymore. And so my suggestion would be to bring in a coordinator that is different, that has a different philosophy. Change it up. Bring in a coordinator that fits the current state of this team while also bolstering the defensive line. Because even if we bring Greenlaw back, there's no guarantee he's going to stay healthy. There's no guarantee that he's going to keep the same speed and level of play that he had. Whoever we bring in to replace Charvarius Ward, there's no guarantee he's going to play at that level. So bring in somebody who has a reputation of being able to work with the type of talent that we have on this team, which is perfectly within their capabilities because they have the position open now. So if they can do that, shore up the trenches on both sides of that ball, put more of a focus on spreading the love on offense, and Kyle seriously getting out of his own way. Sure, the window can reopen. No question about it. There's no question that it can happen. Will it? That's another story altogether. Can Kyle and Brock do it? I think they can, but I don't think they will. Brock is capable of taking $40 to $45 million a year. Brock is capable of playing at the level that he played last year, assuming that he has that type of talent around him. But do I believe that he will? No, because I don't think that he's going to take that money. And I don't think that Kyle is capable of having enough self-awareness to check himself. I don't think Kyle's capable of changing his philosophies. He is way too egotistical to do that. So, sadly, I don't believe that the Super Bowl window will be reopened for the next few years. And the only hope that I'm having that it will even open back up in the next few years is that maybe John can have another couple strong drafts like he just had. And honestly, they would probably have to be even better. This last draft was okay because we're still not 100% sure on Ricky. But going forward, they're going to have to be better, especially this one because of how high the pick is. You cannot miss on that number 11 pick. You cannot miss on that pick. Whoever is picked at that spot has to be a high contributor next season right out of the gate. He has to. I think that Kyle and John both start next season on the hot seat. I really do. And I think that if it doesn't appear that that window is opening back up, by middle to end of next season, that seat is going to be scorching. So I do believe that Super Bowl window is closed. I believe it could be opened again, but I don't believe it will. I don't believe, even less than I believe that Brock can do it, I believe even less that Kyle can. I don't think he's going to get it done. So that's my thoughts, guys. Look forward to hearing from you in the comments. We'll talk to you next time.